I'm back. And yes, I have the right setting this time. Woo! What the fuck was I thinking? My content is not made for kids. Yeah, my previous live stream, I set it to made for kids. My content is not made for kids. Yeah, what was I thinking? Yeah, what was I thinking? Okay, let's see what we have here. Oh, yes, let's talk about Gyp Shit. Let's see what Gyp Shit's up to. Woo! Gyp Shit. God, I hate her squeaky voice. Oh yeah, because she's a clown. Gypsy Rose Blanchard is a clown at this point. No one takes her seriously anymore. Hey, I would be laughing at her too. I'm laughing at her now. Wonder if I can see. I think I'm just gonna mute my TV. I'm not gonna turn it off, but I think I'm gonna mute my TV. No, mute it. So sad that Gypsy Rose is so desperate to stay relevant that she'll go to CMZ, and as soon as she leaves their studio, they're laughing their asses off at her. They're laughing behind her back. It's so sad. Oh, I already saw this one. Okay, okay, let's see. Okay, you should see that video. It's a crack up. I reacted to it on TikTok. I know a lot of people hate TikTok Arena, but I don't. I think she's very, very resourceful when it comes to her stuff. Yeah, allegedly, people are saying that Ken's in danger. Gypsy's baby daddy Ken is in danger. And also, people are saying that he wants to leave, but he's afraid to because I don't know if it's true or not because I don't live there, but they say that in the state of Louisiana, when it comes to custody cases, they typically favor the mother over the father. And because of that, Ken won't leave Gypsy. How many minutes have I been going live on this live? Oh, 21 minutes. Well, 22 minutes. Mm. Mm. I did see the Netflix documentary, The Crash. I did see it.
Man, talk about a film I both expected it to be and really didn't expect it to be. There's things in this movie directions that it goes where I'm just like, oh, I was not expecting to see some of this imagery in this film. And before I go into my thoughts on it, I guess I should give a little background about what I know about the Backrooms, which is not much, but a little bit. So I know it's something that started online. It was kind of like kind of like a meme or a creepy pasta where they were talking about there's like this other reality. I don't know, it's sort of the best way I can put it. Where it's literally like the back rooms of reality. It's things that were left over. It's things that you might clip into or you might just stumble upon. And it's this long, unending giant space of usually, just very ugly yellow walls and like mold and just random things that somehow got in there. And there's been, I guess, some videos made about it that I've seen one or two of, and I guess the guy who directed this made some of them, which I like. I said, that shows you how behind I am on this. What's his name? Kane Parsons, I think is his name. He made a lot of these videos that went very, very viral. I'm pretty sure I've seen a couple of them. But the ones I really like are the ones where people edit in cartoon characters. Like I really like the one where Sylvester stumbles into it, and they use footage from actual like Looney Tunes cartoons, and they like crop them out so that it looks like he's in the yellow rooms. Which, if you know the cartoons that he's been in, there's so many good reactions you can get out and with that, and they do. It's very, very funny. But they've done with a lot of characters. I'm sure they've done SpongeBob. I think I saw one with Daffy Duck and so on and so forth. So I have a little bit of knowledge about it, but I'm definitely not an expert on it. So when I saw they're making a movie and A24 was doing a movie, I'm like, all right, well, I think that can really work. And I didn't want to look up too much about it before going in because I did want to go in with just a vague knowledge, but go in like with the mindset of, okay, if I was somebody who never heard the Backrooms before, would I like this? Somewhere in between where I have some knowledge of what it is and where it came from. I think it started in 4chan, and enough where I can go in as a newcomer and see, okay, is this going to win me over? So that maybe I can judge it for if you are a newcomer or you're an expert on it. But of course, I'm not going to be able to do either, am I? I'm going to be the worst of both worlds. But the good news is, it is a good movie. I did think it was interesting. There's things in it I have slight issues with, but I don't know if that ties into the lore of it or it's something I might be missing because a lot of my issues with there is wiggle room for it to say, well, it's actually this is going on, or one of the possibilities of something that's going on. So, I mean, the quickest way to recommend this film or talk about mention how this is, man, I can't brain today. After seeing this movie, it kind of throws you off a little bit because it is just very, very out there. The fastest way I can get across what this movie is and why it works is that it's strange enough to be creepy and it's vague enough to be intriguing. And I think that's what the idea of the Backrooms already kind of thrived on. Like there is a little bit of a comedic element, to the idea of the Backrooms, certainly, but part of the reason I think it sticks so well with people is that it does play it very straight. It does play it in a creepy way, really acting like, no, these exist and we don't really know where it comes from or why it is, or even what it is.
I have to admit, in the channel, in the YouTube channel Awesome, this is the first time I ever seen the dude's face. He's typically when he does his videos, he does voiceovers. He doesn't show his face. Yeah, I think this is the first time ever I saw his face. I mean, I have nothing against like voiceover commentary. Like if you or a YouTube channel. If you have a YouTube channel and your content is voiceover, like that's fine. Like there's another YouTuber I watch. His name is well, his YouTube channel name is named Luna, and he does voiceover story times.
It is, but they'll imply certain hints to what it is and how it works. But then it'll always change things up, surprising you, and throw some imagery in there that, like I said, I definitely wasn't expecting. But the majority of it is what I guess you would think it is, with, like I said, all the yellow walls in there and everything. It goes back and forth between, just a regular film with cinematic shots and a found footage movie. And both of those are effective. Once in a while, actually, with both of them, I did feel like the film was just a hint long. There are moments I felt could be trimmed down. There's only so many times I can see someone slowly walk into the back rooms and look around and go down the same hallways. um, Even though it is a very visual film, it doesn't have to over explain everything, which is nice. There are times where I'm like, okay, I most of us know what the backrooms look like. We've seen trailers and stuff. When you see someone just very slowly looking around the place, I'm like, all right, we saw that in the opening there's found footage. Then you have one of the main characters go in, and then you have the character bring in some other characters, and then you have one of the other main characters go in. There's, like I said, only so many times I can kind of see that, and I felt like you could trim it down a little bit with respect to that. But at the same time, I do like it is slower. It is still a film that is in no rush to, throw the scares at you. It does want to create atmosphere, but it is one of the few where I'm like, you guys sped up a little bit. I actually didn't need quite that much atmosphere. And the other element that throws me off a bit, but like I said, does have that wiggle room, is that one of the leads in this, without going too much into spoilers, it gets maybe too attached to it. I'll just say that. And the setup for the character, I feel like it happens a little too fast, but it's one of those things where you could certainly say, well, we don't know how much time is passing. Also, we don't know how much time is passing in the back room. This time could be a little different, though they never straight up say that. It could also be that the back rooms are messing with you in a way you're not aware of. It could also be that they open up something that was inside you that you weren't aware was there. Something similar to what I always kind of read The Shining did, Kubrick's The Shining. I certainly feel like this borrows several elements from it. And, in a complimentary way. I'm not saying that like it's a ripoff. No, it's definitely not. It is taking, I think, a lot from the atmosphere of The Shining and some of the vague ideas in there of certainly diving into any sense of loneliness and being forgotten and worthless and losing memory, losing a sight of yourself, and even what you are, who you are, how you are, all this stuff, that just kind of plays around with that in this world. And it does it through certainly the mental deterioration of some of these characters, but also the visuals. Everything is sort of a memory of what almost existence remembers. And it's funny because some people recognize me walking out of the theater, and we were chatting a little bit, and they knew Backrooms pretty well, and they were talking about some of the things they saw in the videos that made it here, and they were talking about some of the theories, and I said, okay, so we're not supposed to know exactly what this is, and there are things that can be read into it. They were saying, yeah, and they were talking about how they read the idea of like dementia being in there, that this is kind of like the mind deteriorating. It's just sort of hints, it's echoes of what you remember what I was getting out of it, I'm not saying this is what the film was implying, but this is what I like about movies like this, where you can read a lot into it. I definitely got an AI vibe from it, where it's almost like regurgitating slash recycling reality. Like, this is what the backrooms or whatever, this echo, this shadow kind of remembers, can somewhat recreate, but it isn't quite right. Everything's just a little off slash a little creepy. And there are people that can maybe go in there and actually they can get lost, they can go crazy, they can also maybe learn to love it. Maybe because they felt like they're in the wrong reality, maybe the rules here are a little bit more abstract, and because they were lost in reality, they can find their place here. So that's all hinted at. Like I said, I just wish there was a little bit more following the deterioration of some of these people, which is not to say it isn't there. Particularly with this one character who stays, I don't want to say, mostly quiet throughout the film, but she doesn't speak a whole lot, and a lot of her backstory is done only visually. And I like that. I like there's no moment where she sits down and says, "Let me tell you what happened to me." I like they don't do that. In fact, the two main characters in this, there's one that's almost all verbal, him talking about what happens. And with her, it's almost all visual. We see what happens to her. And I think that's a good contrast. And again, with what happens with one of the characters here too, with that character, she has a moment where she does something that seems out of character, but again, I think you could certainly say either something was building up or the backrooms brought out this side of her. And it's one of those things where, again, when I was watching it, I was a little baffled by it, by these characters reacting to certain things going on and the amount of time that passed. But at the same time, like I said, that there is that wiggle room that you could say that is how this world works, or maybe time does work differently there. There's just little touches I would have liked if they hammered out a little bit more. For example, there's a scene where one of the main characters, the first time he goes in, he's trying to rush out. He thinks something is after him, and he rushes out. He goes out the wall there, and then he comes back and he grabs a stool and he comes back with it. I'm thinking, why did he do that? Oh, he was seeing if he could bring something through there, I suppose. And I was thinking to myself, if they did something, because this character owns a furniture store, if they did something like he had a missing stool and he doesn't know.
Okay, been going live for 38 minutes.
Know where it went. And then just as he's leaving, he gets out of there and then he comes back and he grabs the stool like that. You can make the argument of, oh, it was missing, but he was also seeing if he could bring something through there. So you could kind of kill two birds with one stone. It would add a little bit of personality to him and even a little bit of comedy. Moments like that, I feel like I could use a bit more of. Like I said, just sort of hammering these people out a touch more, even though I know the idea is they're supposed to be a hint vague and their, sort of deterioration, what's happening in their mind is supposed to be a little abstract. But yeah, I still think there's things you could have built upon just a touch in this. Like it doesn't need much, it just needs to be built upon a little bit more. With that said, there is some very creepy imagery in this. There's one moment where it actually, this rarely happens, where I'm watching a scene in this, I guess somebody running away from, something chasing them, and he enters this room. Again, won't go into spoilers, but something comes out of the shadows that you see a lot of later. But when you don't know what it's going to be and they're building up that atmosphere, when this thing comes out of the shadows, like my heart just went a mile a minute. But it wasn't like I jumped or went like that or anything. I just stood there frozen. I was just like, Oh my god. And again, it's not even like if I was to tell you what it wouldn't sound scary. But with the atmosphere so well built up, and the way this thing kind of moves.
I don't mean to sound mean, but the dude looks like a Michael Rosenbaum that played the, that's the dude that played Lex Luthor in the Smallville series. Kind of looks like him a little bit, just a little bit.
It really, really, really scared me in the moment. And I like when a movie can get a moment where it's like, okay, I'm preparing for the scare. It doesn't quite hit, or I get a jump scare. I'm like, okay, I didn't see that coming, or ooh, that's a creepy imagery. And then there's something that just like, for whatever reason, just like paralyzes me. That very rarely happens. And that was one of the few times where it happened. And again, I don't think it's even going to do that to anyone else watching the movie, but I feel like everybody's going to have some moment where they get like a good uncomfortable freak out in it. Um, and I think with the where I was talking about sort of the slow pacing of the movie, that goes for the handheld stuff too, the found footage stuff, where because we're cutting back and forth, I do wish they. I know why they did this. So you have one of the characters, bring your camera, brings the camera along, and as soon as it starts recording, you're just going to see everything from the point of the view of the camera until the camera goes off. And what I like is that they do a trick that I don't know if I ever saw a movie do, and I always wanted a movie to do it, and they did. It's when a character sets down the camera. I won't say any more after that, but something I always wanted to see in a found footage movie, and they finally did. So I'm like, all right, that's nice to see. But it's another one of those things where I'm like, I know what these rooms look like. The shaky cam sometimes can be very effective in a found footage movie. Other times we've just seen it to death. I wish it cut back and forth in the moment with like you see the person holding the camera and then you cut to the cinematic version where like the guy's saying no, 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 come down here, and you get it from like a different angle. Like only make it found footage when it's going to be the most effective, when it's going to make the scare and the atmosphere you know sort of the best. I didn't need as soon as the camera turns on, it's going to be found footage. Because again, we get a lot of that, and there's only so much I can see him walking by the same stop sign, which my wife had a pretty funny line because the stop sign is always at the very beginning when they walk in, they see and they walk past it. She says, "Boy, that stop sign is not doing its job very well, is it?" Because nobody stops. So yeah, it's good, it's effective, it's creepy. When it got to the end, I like people afterwards were talking about their different interpretations of what they think happened. I was talking about with my wife about what I thought happened or different ways you could interpret it. I like that. I think the audience definitely knew what the back rooms were. We're excited to see this kind of movie where not everything is spelled out, but you can read a lot of interesting ideas into it. So it is effective. I may have to see it again to see if I get more into the descent of the characters, their minds kind of deteriorating. Which again, I'm all for. I'm for this idea. For me, it just moved a little quick. It was just a little too fast, even though there is setup for it. That's another thing I was going to talk about. I would have liked if like maybe this was a character that somebody was looking for that disappeared like years ago, and then they find this person and they are the way they are in the movie, that you see them later. That would have made more sense to me. But again, maybe that's not the idea. It could very well be that this environment is supposed to open up something that you had buried within you or you tried to bury and just wouldn't be buried. But if that's the case, I would have liked that focused on a little bit more. Maybe it was and I missed it. I'm not sure, but it's something where I wish that was just delve into a bit more. But it is still effective. I did like it, and I also like with the characters because again, this was a big problem for me when I was watching it. I was saying, why don't they go to the cops? Come on, use your brains. I mean, I know it's a horror film. I know everything is happening just so they can get to the scary stuff and everything. But come on, I feel like we've come so much further with scary movies that we shouldn't do this. But again, there's that wiggle room because you don't know mentally where these characters are. So yeah, like I said, there's just enough in there so that if something doesn't work, you can make the argument that something else is going on. Is that intentional? I don't know, but it's smart that they create an idea that makes people want to interpret it different ways and therefore can look at possible faults and maybe interpret it in a way that actually makes it more fascinating. So I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's kind of cool. We got two art house ish horror films that came out recently. This and then Obsession. If you're gonna tell me one of these was going to be made by Blumhouse and one of them was going to be made by A24, I really thought it'd be the other way around. But yeah, they both have a very similar, like I said, an uncomfortable, abstract, horror to them. Obviously, there's a lot of commentary to it as well, but it's not direct commentary. It's again a little bit more abstract. You can read different stuff into it, particularly with this one with the back rooms. And I like I said, that you can certainly get different ideas out of it. And it's not something where if you watch this years ago or even years later, oh, it's going to be dated. It's something where this is commentary and ideas that will last because it is vague enough. They give you these seeds of ideas that you've certainly seen in other things before, getting lost in a world that's kind of like a maze and, there's monsters in there and stuff. I mean, that's a very, very old idea, but what it is and how it operates, where it came from, what it's doing to you. Are you the one even doing it, making this world function? All of that is very, very interesting. And yeah, like I said, some of the visuals that pop up in this, it's the thing chasing him. That's the thing where I was just like, what? I was just not expecting. And I looked up a little bit about how they did the effect, and it's very, very cool. If you look it up later, you'll find it's very similar to an effect they did in another film that came out a couple years ago, and it's kind of neat. So, yeah, with that said, what do you all think? Did you love this movie? Did you think this is one of the best horror films of the year, the past several years? And it got the idea of, this internet meme, this internet lore just down perfectly? Or did you think it was terrible? It was too long. It didn't capture what the meme, the lore, and everything was about. It was totally off track. Or are you somewhere in between where you think it had enough scares and enough originality, even though it's based on something that existed already but didn't explain everything, and it gave you just what you're looking for? Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you next time. Take care.
Okay, 48 minutes. Mm. Yeah, this is the dude I was talking about. His name is Luna. Well, his channel name is called Luna.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Austin here, or Luna. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day so far. So today's story time, it's kind of like an old-fashioned Luna story time, judging by the title and what it's about. It definitely reminds me of the old days on this channel, which I think a lot of you enjoy. So I think you guys are gonna enjoy this story time very much. Before I start this story, don't be like young Luna. I'm starting with the moral of the story first. Do not be like young Luna. Don't do this. Okay? Don't be skipping school. Don't be hiding from the police and stuff. That's a stupid thing to do. All right? It's a one-way ticket to jail. So don't do that. But yeah, learn from my mistakes, watch them for entertainment, whatever. Anyway, let's start this. So today's story time all starts off back when I was 16 years old. Now, around this time, YouTube was going very well for me. I remember that. Life was going pretty good, but I had one problem. Okay. I was still technically in school. And around this time was when I was having like the official talks with my mom about dropping out. I was like, Mom, like I got this YouTube thing going on. It's going really good. On top of that, I was having horrible, and I mean horrible, like anxiety at the time with my life, or in my life, I should say, specifically about school. I don't know why. It's not like I was afraid of the work or was afraid of the long days or anything like that. For some reason, though, whenever I got into one of those like confined, fluorescent lit classrooms, my body would like shut down. I would start getting really dizzy and like feel really, really uneasy and not good. And I would almost pass out. Literally, I would have to leave the classroom and go to the nurse immediately, or else I'd just pass out on the floor right there in front of everybody. And every time I try and go to school around this time, that would happen. So I was kind of having these talks with my mom, like, yeah, I need to get out. Like, I either need to drop out officially or go to a different school or, try something else, like online school or something, because I can't do this. And for a while, they put me into online school and this other school for a while. I tried a couple different options, but none of them worked. And eventually I ended up dropping out. We all know this. But anyway, yeah, around this time, that's what I was going through. So I remember I was skipping school a lot. I wasn't going. And it got to the point where the school called my mom up and was like, hey, Austin needs to come in or you're going to get in trouble. Like he's skipping school too much. So I remember one morning I woke up at 16 and my mom walked to my room and she was like, hey, the school just called me. You got to go today. I'm sorry. I'm not letting you skip. You got to go in. I was like, but mom, like I'm gonna pass out. I get super dizzy. And she was like, I know, honey, but like you gotta go in. I'm gonna get in trouble if I keep skipping. I can't keep letting you skip school. Obviously, we'll talk to them soon about maybe putting you in a different school or getting you out of there. But for now, you have to go in. And I was like, well, what if I start getting dizzy? And she's like, if you start getting dizzy, go to the nurse like you always do, and like wait there. They'll call me. That's better than you skipping today. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll do it. So I remember I got up, I got ready for the day. I was in such a bad mood. I did not want to go in. I just wanted to stay home because now the thought of going to school was giving me anxiety. It was giving me that like dizzy feeling. I wasn't happy about it, but I knew I had to. I cared more about my mom's well-being than my own. I'm not going to like, get her in trouble for skipping. I don't want the police showing up at our door and being like, hey, your son keeps skipping school. You're a bad mom. You're going to jail. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want anything like that happening. So I went. I got ready for the day and I jumped on the bus. Now, once I got to school, the day actually started off pretty good, a lot better than most days at school would. I actually wasn't having much anxiety. My first couple periods were going very good. I felt pretty good. Got through my first couple classes, no problem. Life was actually going pretty good. I was actually in a pretty good mood. Well, then I got to third period. And on this day, third period was English. Now, English class, I didn't really have a problem with. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was just kind of like, and I wasn't really too worried about it. And I got there, I sat down, and the thing about anxiety and the thing about not feeling good, it hits you at the times where you least expect it. Because I sat down and about 10 minutes into class, I start getting that feeling. I start getting that feeling of like overwhelmed, anxious, not feeling too good, like something was about to go wrong. And I was like, oh no, like, why do I feel like this? And the next thing I know, I start feeling really dizzy and really not good. And I'm like, oh shit. And yeah, about 10, 15 minutes in the class, I knew it. I was like, I have to leave. I can't stay here. I have to go to the nurse. I have to get out of this class. I need to like step out. So I walked up to the teacher mid-lesson and I was like, hey, I'm sorry. Can I go to the nurse? She's like, yeah, what's wrong? And my English teacher was pretty cool. She was like, what's going on? And I was like, I think I have like a panic disorder or something. And I don't feel good. I feel like I'm about to pass out. She goes, okay, of course. Yeah, go to the nurse. I'm like, thank you. And she sends me off. So I leave class. I go into the hallway. I go down the hallway. I go up the stairs. I get to the second floor, go down another hallway. I get to the nurse's office. I walk into the nurse's office And for some reason, the nurse is just nowhere to be found. Usually the nurse was always sitting in her office waiting for people to come in, but for some reason she wasn't there. So I went to like the little bed thing she had set up, and I just laid down. So I thought, okay, she'll be here soon. You know, she probably knows I'm coming, no big deal, right? And I lay down, and like 15 minutes goes by, and I start to calm down at this point. I start feeling pretty good. Like my anxiety's kind of fucking off. And I was like, okay, good. Like I'm gonna be fine. It's gonna be all good. Life is good. And yeah, I'm there for like 15 minutes, feeling good. And all of a sudden, the nurse walks in. And she walks in and she sees me and she gives me a really dirty look. And I was like, what the hell? I didn't say that, but I thought that. And she goes, you again. Now, my nurse was very familiar with me at this point because I was up there all the time because of this weird like dizziness I was getting / anxiety. And I was like, yeah, me again. She goes, what's wrong, Austin? What's wrong this time? Same thing? I was like, yeah. She goes, listen, I'm not trying to sound mean here, but I just don't believe you anymore. I was like, what? She goes, yeah, these little like panic attacks / dizziness, like spells you're having, you know, you claim they happen in class. And then the minute you're out of class, you come up here and you're fine. I'm not trying to accuse you of anything, but it kind of seems like you're just trying to get out of class for free. Now, this fucking pissed me off. I can't lie. This upset me because first of all, it's a blatant lie. I was not trying to get out of class just to get out of class. That's not what I was doing. I was not faking it. And it's not like anxiety / any kind of mental issue. It's not like these things are easily controllable. You know, it's not like I can just flick a switch and be like, yeah, I'm not anxious anymore. Like they depend on situations you're in. And in my situation and the conditions, I didn't like being in crowded, packed, tight, square rooms full of kids with giant fluorescent lights beaming down on me and feeling like just only having my thoughts, you know? I didn't like that. And the minute I got out of those situations and I got to lay down and chill and be alone, I felt good. It makes sense. Like that's kind of how anxiety works a lot of the time. You don't like crowds, you get out of the crowd, you feel good. On top of that, I didn't like this nurse that much to begin with, this nurse, because I had a nurse before her earlier in the year that was amazing. And she was my high school nurse and my middle school nurse as well, for years. And she had just retired. And if I still had her, like if it was her I was talking to in this moment, she would have never said something like that. This was obviously just because this new nurse, in my opinion, was kind of mean. And yeah, I didn't like that she said that about me, that I was trying to lie. So I called her out. I was like, okay, so you're not trying to accuse me of anything, but you literally just accused me of lying. You straight up said you think I'm just trying to get out of class for free. Like, that's just absolute BS. I'm not doing that. I have actual anxiety. I've been to the doctor about this 4 different times. They've given me medicine for it. They've given me therapy. Like, I'm not lying to you here. Like, I'm skipping school because I'm literally terrified of passing out in the middle of class and embarrassing myself. And she was like, okay, well, I'm just saying what I think. And I was like, well, what you think, no offense, it's bullshit. And she goes, okay, if you're going to use that kind of language, go to the main office. And I was like, okay, better than here. And I got up and I walked out of the nurse's office. And I see her pick up the phone and start calling the principal, letting the principal know I'm coming to the main office. Well, once I got into the hallway and I started walking towards the main office, I thought, you know what? Fuck this. I'm skipping. And I went right for the main doors and I just walked out the school. Just walked right out of my high school, right out the main doors into the parking lot. And I crossed the street and I just left the property, just left the premises. I was done. Should I have done that? No, obviously not. But that's what I did. And I remember as soon as I got out of there, I instantly felt this like weight lift off my shoulders because I was no longer anxious. I was no longer under those like, you know, bright lights and just feeling like shit. And I was like, all right, cool. Now what? And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go to Dunkin' Donuts because down the street from my school, there was a Dunkin' Donuts. So I go to Dunkin' Donuts. I get over there. I sit down. I order a donut and a coffee. I eat it. No big deal, right? I get done eating it. I leave Dunkin' Donuts because I knew if I stayed there for too long, I'd probably get caught because it's right down the street from my school. And if I had to guess, the security / police had probably already been alerted of me leaving because I literally was supposed to go to the main office and I didn't show up. So yeah, if I had to guess, they already knew I was, not, at school anymore. And I was probably skipping. So yeah, I left Dunkin' Donuts and I just started walking around aimlessly around my town, just walking around. Remember, I went to this little flower shop nearby, checked out some flowers, not even because I thought they were interesting. I just literally had nothing else to do. I was that bored. Walked out of there, went to this little convenience store, bought some snacks with my lunch money, left there, ate the snacks. I wasn't even that hungry. I was just bored. And then I decided to start walking back towards my house. Now, I lived pretty far from my high school. My house was multiple miles away from the high school. So the walk itself was going to take hours. But I thought, you know what? I'm already gone. I already started skipping. I'm already out of the school. I may as well just start getting, back towards home. So I started walking. And I got about 30 minutes into the walk. And all of a sudden, my cell phone starts ringing. And I look down and it's my mom. I was like, oh shit, here we go. I already knew. But I answered it. I didn't let it ring. I didn't ignore it like I normally would back then. I answered it, and I picked up the phone, and my mom goes, Austin, I just got off the phone with your principal. Why are you not in school? And I was like, I'm sorry, Mom. I couldn't do it. I started having a panic attack, started getting dizzy, went to the nurse's office. She said that I was faking it. I didn't like that very much. So I left. I walked out. And she goes, what? She said you were faking it? And I could tell this pissed my mom off because my mom knew I wasn't lying. My mom knows when I'm lying. And in this situation, I was not lying. So this pissed her off. She knew that my anxiety and like what was going on, me getting dizzy and passing out and stuff, it was all real because she'd witnessed it. There was literally a time once where I had a panic attack and straight up just went unconscious, like at my house. And my mom witnessed this and like took me to the ER. Like she knew that this was not fake. So when I told her that the nurse kind of like alluded to me faking it, she was like, oh, hell no. So my mom was upset about that. However, she was also upset with me because I skipped. And she started talking about that. She was like, Austin, I understand that pissed you off. I understand that you got upset by that. You have every right to be. But don't walk out of school. Like, you're digging yourself in a deeper hole here. Now you're going to be in a bunch of trouble. Like, you know, security's looking for you. The school's looking for you. The school cop's looking for you. You're in trouble. Like, come on, you're digging yourself in a deeper hole here. And I was like, I understand, but what's done is done. She was like, look, just turn around wherever you are. Go back to school. I was like, Mom, I love you. I'm sorry, but no. And I hung up on her. Should I have done that? No. I should have just been like, Mom, can you come pick me up? She probably would have. She probably would have come pick me up, taken me home, and I would have been okay. But me being a stupid, just, you know, ignorant, stubborn little fuck, I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. So I hung up. And after that, she tried to call me back, and I didn't answer. And then she texted me. I was like, Austin, call me back now. I didn't call her back. And now I really was digging myself in a deeper hole. You know, I really shouldn't have did that. But what's done was done, and I just kept walking towards my house. And I'm walking, and probably a good hour goes by of just me walking. And I feel like ass at this point. Like, I'm tired. I have nothing to drink. I just want to, like, go home, but I'm so far away. I'm using my phone as a GPS, and it still says I have, like, over an hour and a half left of walking. I was not happy about it. I felt not good about this at all. And when I got to, like, the halfway point of the walk, I definitely was having some regrets. And I can't lie. All I wanted to do was like pull out my phone and call someone I knew with a car to come get me, but I couldn't because everybody was either in school or at work, or it was my mom, and my mom was already probably mad at me for hanging up on her, so I didn't want to do that. So I just kept walking. And I remember I was walking down this bike path. It was on the side of a main road. I was in the bike path, like lane, and I'm walking down it. And I remember at this point, I'm about halfway through the walk. You know, I'm thinking, okay, I can do this. I'm halfway there, even though this sucks. And I want to like go home quicker. Just keep walking, Austin. You're going to be okay. And all of a sudden, on the other side of the road, right, I see a police SUV coming down the other side of the road, heading towards my direction. And the police officer has a very clear view of me. And I have a very clear view of him. And I can see him making eye contact with me. I can see the look on his face. I know that he knows I'm supposed to be in school. I don't know if he had an alert, like maybe someone told him I was skipping and he's like on the lookout for someone skipping. I don't know, but I could see it on his face. I knew that he knew I wasn't supposed to be, you know, walking down the street at that time. I was supposed to be in school. And I see the car start to slow down, right? And I thought, oh shit, like, oh no, I gotta fucking get out of here. Like, he's gonna stop and pull me over. So I tried to turn and start walking into this park because right by the bike path on the side of the road, there was a playground, like kind of down this field. So I thought, okay, I'll just turn right. I'll walk down this field into the playground where his car can't reach me, and I'll be fine. Well, this motherfucker, I shit you not, he sees me, right? He sees me like make the right turn and start walking away from his car. He immediately turns through the other lane onto the grass where I'm walking, right? Right up next to me, flicks his sirens on and gets on his little like speaker thing. And he goes, hey buddy, stop right there. And me being scared and terrified about what would come next, I made the stupid mistake of just bolting. I immediately just ran. I ran as fast as I could into some woods right by this park. And I just ran and I ran and I ran. And luckily, he kind of gave up on chasing me really fast. Like when I first ran and I was still in the grass, I could hear his car following me right behind me. But once I hit the woods, he couldn't drive his car in the woods. And at that point, the only choice he had was to get out and run. And I just don't think he wanted to do that because when I turned around, when I got in the woods and I was running, I saw his car just parked up, but none of the doors were open. He wasn't out of it. He was just sitting in it. So I think he low-key just gave up and then got on his radio and was like, hey, there's a kid running. Like, he went to these woods. Like, let's all go look for him. So I ran into the woods pretty deep. I ran probably a good, I don't know, half a mile into them. And once I got in there and I couldn't see anyone, no one was around, and, everything was safe, I just sat down on a tree stump. And I just sat there. I remember putting my head in my hands and being like, dude, I have dug myself into a situation that I did not expect. Like, this is not good. My mom was right. I should have fucking listened and just went back to school, man. Like, this is ass. Now I got the police after me. Like, this is not good. So I ended up sitting there on this tree or whatever for like probably a good 20 minutes, just catching my breath and like just chilling and thinking about, the mistake I made and, how bad this sucked. But the good thing, the silver lining was like, okay, at least like, I'm safe in these woods. There's no cops or anything. I'm good. Well, right after I had that thought, and I'd been sitting there for quite a while, I started hearing the sound behind me of twigs snapping, like footsteps. And I turn around, and I shit you not, I see none other than that same police officer that was chasing me before, and another police officer looking for me. And I was like, oh shit. So I immediately get up, right? And I start running. Because I'm like, dude, like they're far away. I have a head start. I'm going to start running. And when I started to run, I heard them both yell at me. I don't know what they yelled. If I had to guess, it was probably along the lines of like, stop running or, hey, like, stop it. But I just ran. And I ran probably about another half a mile into these woods. And at this point, I hit the end of them. I saw a street on the other side. And I had two choices. I keep running down the street or I stay in the woods and I hide. So I decided to climb a tree in these woods because I've done this before. When people have like chased me in the woods, like friends playing hide and seek or, security at my school one time or my school cop one time. These are all other stories I could probably tell, but whatever. I'm spoiling them. I climbed up trees and no one decides to look up there. So I did what I know best. I just climbed the tree and I climbed a very tall one. I went very high up. I remember it was actually low key kind of scary. I don't like heights very much and it scared the shit out of me to be up that high, but I climbed it, got to the top and I sat down on a branch. I just sat there. And a few minutes later, none other than the cops come walking up, right? And they're looking around, they're looking, and I hear one of them say, I think he went down this street because that was the street that the woods led to. And the guy's like, yeah, let's go. And they both leave the woods and start walking down the street. And I thought, let's fucking go. And after that, I slowly shimmied down the tree, got down okay. I was safe. And I ran back the way I came, all the way to the other end, all the way to where I entered the woods, got out, ran through the field, through the playground, got back on the road I was originally on when I first saw the police officer in the car, and I started walking back towards my house. And this time, I walked a lot quicker. I had to walk fast because I knew it was only a matter of time before another police officer crossed my path and saw me and probably pulled over or chased me. So I'm walking very fast down this road, right? Because I knew I was on borrowed time. And about 30 minutes later, I'm making good progress, right? At this point, there's probably only like 40 minutes left of the walk, maybe less. I was almost home, not too much longer left. I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. I was almost there. And all of a sudden, guess what I see? Same situation as last time, dude. Same exact situation. I see a police SUV coming down the opposite side of the street, and he's looking right at me. This time, it's not the same cop. It's not any of the two that were chasing me. It's a different guy. And I think, oh, shit, here we go. Like, he's going to pull over. He's looking right at me. It's over. And guess what? He slows down, drives by me real slow, gives me a look of like, what are you doing out here? But he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop the car. He just drives by. Drives right by me, man. Lets me go. And I was like, no fucking way. And he drives off. I couldn't believe it. I really thought in that moment he was going to pull over and like, stop me or whatever, or chase me, right? Nah, he just drove off. If I had to guess, maybe he had no idea that, other cops were looking for me. Maybe he didn't hear it on the radio. Maybe they didn't. I don't know, right? I don't know. Either way, he didn't stop. So I thought, okay, I'm so lucky. And after that, once the cop was out of sight, I ran. I started running. I went from fast walking to running. And I probably cut my journey home in half with this. I ended up getting home probably about 25 minutes later. I get there. I get inside my house. Just one of my brothers was home. Just one brother. He sees me walk in the front door. He's at the kitchen table. He's like, what the fuck are you doing home? And I was like, I left early. He goes, does mom know? I'm like, yeah, she knows. He goes, is she okay with that? I'm like, no. He goes, dude, you're going to be in deep shit when she gets home. I'm like, I know. He goes, all right, man, as long as you know. And after this, I went in the living room. I laid down. I started watching some Netflix. I just fucking started watching some Netflix, chilling, trying to not think about the fact that police are looking for me. My school's probably looking for me, security, school cop, actual other police, my mom. I was just trying not to think about it. And literally 5 minutes later, after I started watching Netflix, my mom calls me. And I answered. I answered this time. I didn't let it, ring. I was like, hey. She goes, Austin, where are you? Are you home? I was like, yeah, how'd you know? She goes, I don't know. It's been a while. I thought you might have walked home or something. I'm like, yeah, I did. I'm home. She goes, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. She goes, all right, I'm going to tell the school that you're home for the day so they don't freak out and keep looking for you. I'm like, all right. So she did. She called my school. Then she called me back, told me to knock it on my Xbox for the rest of the day, told me to not watch any TV, that I was grounded. I said, okay. After that, we hung up. I kept watching TV because I thought, you know what? I'm going to be grounded when she gets home. I may as well enjoy the last few, hours I have with it. So yeah, I didn't listen to her. I should have got off immediately, but I didn't listen to her because I, was a little piece of shit back then. But then, like 10 minutes after I got off the phone with her, like 10 minutes later, my phone starts ringing again. This time it's a number I don't recognize. And I answer it because I was curious. And I was like, hello? And immediately I hear my uncle's voice. He goes, hey, Austin. I was like, oh, hey, I didn't recognize your number. I must not have it saved. He goes, yeah, no big deal. Question, did you skip school today? And follow-up question, were you like running from my officers? And I was like, oh no. So guys, back in the day, my uncle, not like my blood uncle, but my aunt's like husband or whatever, he was a sheriff for a little bit. He was a pretty like, important, respectable sheriff and pretty high up dude, in the police world. And I didn't know him that well. We weren't super close, but I've talked about him a couple times on this channel because back in the day, sometimes when I get in trouble and like, the police would get involved, he would hear about it and he'd like, talk to me about it or like, be involved with it. So yeah, he calls me and he asked me this. And I was like, how do you know? He goes, well, on my radio, when I hear that there's a blonde teenager running through the woods, running through an area where you don't live too far from, and they're describing the outfit that you're wearing, and it looks just like something you would wear. Yeah. I think it was you. I also know you're a school cop. And he told me it was you. And I'm like, there it is. And he's like, yeah. What are you doing, man? Are you home right now? I was like, yes, I'm home. I ran home. I'm sorry I ran from your officers. I was scared. He goes, Austin, you can't do that. Like, you get away with it now because you're a young kid and you know me. But listen, if you do this again, I'm not going to bail you out. And if you do this as an adult, you're going to jail. You could even go to jail as a kid. You can go to juvie. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry. He goes, yeah, sorry doesn't cut it. Be better. I was like, I will. And I just apologized and I moved on. And later that night, my mom came home, grounded my ass. My dad came over for a little bit. He talked to me about it. He was very disappointed. And it was just a shitty situation. A lot of it could have been avoided. And it was definitely my fault. But in the end, it makes for a good story, at least. That's fair. But yeah, don't be like young me. That's the moral of the story. Do not be like young me. Learn from my mistakes. Don't do this. Also, I never saw that nurse again. Forgot to bring that up. I did not like her at all after this. Like, I really did not like her. So anytime I did go to school after this and I had to like get out of class, I would just go to the main office and talk to my principal or the counselor because I did not want to talk to that fucking nurse ever again. So yeah, that's what I did. But yeah, guys, that's the story. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace.
Okay, I think I'm gonna end it here. Yeah, I live streamed for about a good hour, but like, all right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.